Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe on a beautiful Wednesday morning here and hopefully wherever you are. I'm Dan Murrell, joining me, Billy Business.
Morning.
And it's Wednesday, which means Ed Greer is here with us.
I am really happy to be here today. I actually
I
am.
felt like that was a setup for something.
No, I know. That's the sad part. That's my personality. The personality I put forth on this show, that had to be a setup for some jab about how sad I am. But nope, feeling pretty good.
All right, well, today we are going to talk about New Mutants. Will it ever actually be finished? We're going to take another fan question and tell you how you can send you yours. And we also have an exciting video update about an upcoming project right here on Screen Junkies. But first, let's talk about New Mutants, the movie I might not have picked to be the longest slog on the way to theaters. It seems like we've been talking about this movie for a while because the trailer for this movie came out, like 2 years ago?
A really long time ago.
A really long time ago, and it may not be as close to hitting theaters or streaming or whatever as we think. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Maisie Williams, who most people probably know as Arya Stark on Game of Thrones, is also in this movie, described bumping into Charlie Heaton, who you probably know from Stranger Things, amongst other things, who's also in the movie, and talking about how neither one of them know what the heck is going on with New Mutants. There were reports that the movie was being heavily reshot to make it scarier. The assumption on most people's parts was that had already happened. Apparently, it has not happened. This is what Maisie Williams had to say. Quote, "Who knows when the F New Mutants is going to come out? Hopefully this interview will make everyone hurry up a little bit." She also said that she hopes to have the chance to appear alongside her co-star Sophie Turner, Sansa Stark, in an X-Men movie, but the likelihood of that happening doesn't appear to be too high. There have been reports that Marvel was still going to come out, that Fox was still going to put it out, that it was still in production, that they had to finish this, they were tweaking that. It's missed 2 different release dates. Right now it's scheduled for August. It was scheduled for, I think, fall of 2017, and then
like February,
or
right?
February of this year, and then fall of 20. It's missed multiple release dates. But is it going to join Gambit? At least it's further along than Gambit. At least something's been shot, right?
This might become one of the most high-profile, at least in the last couple decades, movies that's like, it's fairly done, but just may never show up. Because I really thought, I thought that it was done. They just didn't know if they wanted to put it out. I didn't realize, the reshoots hadn't even happened yet.
If, as of right now, it is on the schedule for August 2nd, 2019. So for a little over 4 months away. That's a pretty short time to do reshoots.
What I don't understand is this push it back ethos that's out there. Every time a movie's kind of bad, they push it back as though it's going to get better. It's like, oh, the yogurt's spoiled. Put it in the back of the fridge. Like, it'll get better over time. Next thing you know, there's societies building inside your fridge. You know what I mean? And it's not any better. And people just go like, oh, this piece of crap. People will occasionally write a story that says like, oh, you remember this piece of crap? It was supposed to come out with such and such. And then I'll always talk about how it got pushed back as a way to bolster their case for why it was a piece of crap. So when you have a piece of crap on your hands, just bite the crap sandwich and put it out. Spend as little money marketing as possible. Bury it, like a couple of movies have been done. The last 5-6 years, a bunch of movies have been buried in this fashion. Yeah. And nobody's the wiser.
But this would be... I'm trying to think of another case like this. Sometimes you'll see a trailer for a movie that doesn't come out for a while or it gets pushed back, but they're usually smaller films, maybe a comedy or something. There was a Jack Black movie called Envy that the trailer came out and then it came out 2 years later, like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. But that's a smaller film. Like, this is potentially, or at least this was set up to be part of the X-Men universe, if not a huge tentpole movie, a big movie, one that was expected to do well. And I'm trying to think of another case where a movie of this size could just. I've been very scared. I didn't think it would just go away because I honestly didn't think you could do that to a movie this big.
Well, what's the purported budget? Does anybody know?
I mean, I'm sure it was still on the smaller end of what one of these things costs, but let's be real here. The smaller end of a blockbuster these days,
you have to triple it, whatever it is. Yeah,
expensive movie ever made 15, 20 years ago. I think the only movie I can ever remember that was like severely delayed, and then when it came out, I was like, oh, that was worth it. Was the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek. because that missed it by like a year, and I was like, uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. And
Yeah.
then like that movie was so tight and the effects were so great, I was like, oh, a year well spent. But anytime that I hear delay, I'm like, you watched a cut, you don't know what to do with it.
Well, you'd be surprised how hard it is to put lens flares and all across the nation. Lens flares, all
I
those.
feel like of
Yeah.
all JJ movies, and maybe you disagree, but Star Trek
At the least?
pumped the brakes quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I love
The
the
first Star
production
Trek
design.
had so many lens flares.
Am I thinking of the second one?
The second one had far fewer
Okay,
lens
maybe
flares.
I'm
The
thinking
first
about
Star
that
Trek
then.
was blinding.
Yeah.
It was all. Go do yourself a favor. See if you can watch the making of the first Star Trek and how his technique. Like he would, instead of like having he would sit behind the cameraman because he wanted the right kind of shaky cam and like bump the magazine on the camera so that the film itself would actually shake. He has some crazy stylistic
But
choices.
not too far off from
Yeah.
the style of Star Trek. It's like the ship gets hit, like
Yeah.
in the '60s. Just move the camera. Everyone,
true.
whoa! It
No,
was kinda
I've
authentic.
never seen a director actually manipulate the physical film to get the shaky cam that he wanted.
I'm a little bummed if this never makes it, only because there's quite a few of us in this office actually that have been very critical of the Fox X-Men universe. I think there's only like one, maybe two that I liked. And then Logan came around, I was like, that's cool, you did something completely different.
Yeah.
And it seemed like with this one, it's like, oh, okay, we're again getting something very different. You're doing a different genre within the same IP. That's cool.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
now
think
it's like,
I think it's a man at a time, or what, you know what I mean, whatever the term is, because it was. If you think about it, when it was going to come out, it was going to have to be part of the X-Men universe. It was going to have to be one of the building blocks of the new Deadpool / universe they're building.
Yeah.
And now that now that the merge has happened, I think there's not as much impetus to take a $30 million movie, let's say, and decide that it's going to be part of a tentpole for a larger thing anymore.
But the irony-
that might have affected it. And I know obviously that's bad timing and who would ever plan it out that way, but
Right.
if they kill this whole section of movies we're talking about, if they just decide that Thanos snap and not even talk about or market these or anymore, we're going to forget about them, just like we forget about everything, and they're just going to do something new on top of it.
Well, the irony of all of this appears to be that as I reach back into the time tunnel and remember when this trailer for this movie came out, it was generally well received. A lot of people said like, oh, I like this, looks kind of cool. It doesn't look like any X-Men movie that I've seen before. It has this kind of elements of horror and body horror that look really awesome. Kind of some of the shots had like a Nightmare on Elm Street type vibe, almost an 80s horror. And then you have Dark Phoenix, which a lot of people look at the trailers and are like, eh.
Right.
And that's the one that's coming out. And the one that people initially said, oh, this could be kind of a cool new thing is now getting pushed back continually over and over again.
this is the one we sent Joe Starr to the set
Joe
like
did a
2.5
set
years
visit
ago.
for this movie like 3 years ago. It was so long ago. We
Right.
were all living in a different world.
Yep.
It was, yeah. Joe,
Wow.
Joe's gonna have to write up his set visit report. He's gonna have to go back to his notes or something because he did the set visit for this thing like so long ago.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it still hasn't come out. The one thing that also, speaking of time, that sort of just realized how you perceive certain people is when I read this interview with Maisie Williams. Like, she drops the F-bomb like 4 times.
It's like, you're 6 years
Yeah, and
old.
in my head, I'm just like, she's gonna get in trouble for that. And then another time she's like 21 years old. But in
Yeah.
my head, it's just I've been watching Game of Thrones so long. I just think of Arya Stark being not young enough to use the F word, but young enough to slit people's throats. I don't know. It's a weird puritanical
A
country.
little
that we live
baby
in.
grows up and it grows up and it grows up.
But
Yeah.
it's gonna be weird when you look at the cast. It's a young cast. The more they push this back, they're gonna be 4 years older by the time.
That's the crazy thing to
That-
me
yeah.
is like there was the Amityville, the latest like Amityville horror one that was going to be put in theaters, and I can't remember, it was like Lake Bell or someone, and she was like 14 in the movie, and they delayed it by so many years. She became a way bigger star, but
Yeah.
also like they put out, look at this new Lake Bell movie. It's like, oh, that was clearly
It's like the people who started Boyhood. It's like,
Right.
yeah, this is my real. You're 6. No, but we did it for a long time.
I'm legit bummed because seeing what shape this film is, there's no way it's coming out in August. It's just no way it's coming out.
Unless they've figured out that they don't need these reshoots after all. I don't see how, because Maisie Williams is going to be promoting Game of Thrones for the next month minimum, and who knows what else she's got lined up. And plus, that's just her. Plus, you add everybody else to that mix. Like, it's. I mean, I just can't believe they're not keeping them in the loop on what's going on.
Well, and it is something to lament when you really look at the New Mutants. It was, I think at the time, it was definitely trying to take the handsome off of the X-Men. You know, the X-Men seem to be these beautiful pinnacles of human evolution. Never mind their homo superior abilities. If they were just models, most of them, they'd make a fair chunk of change. Yeah. And then you get like gangly Southern kid, you know, the kid from Brazil who doesn't the magma, all this jazz, Wolf Girl, and techno-organic people, you know, dudes with useless powers like languages, which is not a useless power. Don't at me. It's a one. It would be obviously very great
power. Just had balls come out of his hands. I think it was just balls. No, like
gold balls. Gold
yeah,
balls.
Like,
there's a character, gold balls. But yeah, so New Mutants. Just bottom line, I talked to
testes.
I talked to an X-Men writer recently, and he was just like the cool thing that he wanted to do was just add more mutants that were all messed up to like let you know that it isn't always. You don't always get to be a superstar when you get mutant powers, and this is Hollywood's attempt to put these handsome youngsters into this weird world, you know. So I do lament the fact that it doesn't appear that it's going to come out, but I also, just like everybody whose job isn't caught up at Fox or whose job isn't caught up at Disney, because unfortunately I'm not a Disney shill. But the bottom line is they to do these movies this way, if they decided to just cut cord with it and just do it over again a while later, I really wouldn't care.
That's the key, because tinfoil hat time, watching that trailer for New Mutants and thinking about the concept of like these kids, it seemed like in that trailer, and that's really all we can go on, like don't know what's happening to them. And it's not until you really see New Mutants flash on the screen that you're like, oh, this is them discovering mutant power. Like, it actually seems like a really great way to introduce the concept of mutants into a larger, like
that's
an MCU.
how it would be if you were an actual kid.
Exactly.
Like, if that's an idea to get mutants into the MCU, is like maybe not do it this way, maybe scrap this, but take the DNA of that to put it somewhere else.
I mean, I think that I think we're going to see a traditional mutant movie with elements of hard body horror in it that are going to be, oh, wow, look how new they are. And we're going to look back on this show and be like, dude, they had that, and that scrap thing they threw in the scrap heap. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm a little bummed out. I was looking forward to it. Maybe we'll see it someday. Maybe we won't. It certainly does not seem likely that we're going to see it on August 2nd.
Could it come out on the streaming platform?
Of course it could, yeah.
Just drop it.
It's got to get
quietly.
finished. Like, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they're just, someday they're like, yeah, we didn't reshoot, so this is what it is.
Maybe they just cut what they got.
Maybe you'll see like burned DVDs at like random, you know, Bakersfield Comic-Con or something. Just
like they used to buy Star Trek bloopers.
Bloopers
and New Mutants.
You could buy the Roger Corman
Fantastic Four.
Before it was official, you could buy the Captain America Matt Salinger one. Yeah, so it's like maybe it'll be out there someday in some form, but the idea of going to AMC on August 2nd and buying a ticket for New Mutants doesn't seem like it's
doesn't seem likely
that we're gonna leave.
You might as well get it through Movie Pass, am I right?
Hey, maybe they can invest in New Mutants. Seems like a good investment for them. We're making a big push for fan questions this week because we have our WonderCon panel on Friday, and it's a little bit of a drive away, and I guess we're going to pre-tape Friday's show so everybody can get down there and maybe just enjoy the day down there at WonderCon. It'll be fun. So if you want to submit a fan question for this week's Fan Friday, on the SJ News YouTube page, there is a community tab. Click that tab. You can leave us a question. Maybe we'll pick it and answer your question here on the show for Friday. And while you're there, you can subscribe to Screen Junkies News and watch SJU every day. We're here every morning. Sometimes we're live, sometimes we're pre-taped, sometimes we're delayed if Apple decides to take 2 hours to have 5 stars come on stage and talk at us. But usually we're here around the same time. Subscribe, like. There's bells and icons and things to get notifications. I don't know.
Gizmos.
Gears and gizmos. Turn on annotations to vote and
transistors. It's all transistors.
But to show you the kind of fan question that we might answer, we're answering a couple fan questions during the week this week. This question is from Nikki. She asked, do you enjoy movie commentaries, and which do you prefer, director-writer commentary or commentary with the actors? So, Blu-ray, DVD,
Yeah.
digital now, a lot of them, they're including commentaries from people involved. Is there one that you like? Is there one that do you like a certain type?
I have a handful of favorites. First, I think if you're like wanting to be a filmmaker, I think Robert Rodriguez, all of his like special features on his movies are great because he really wants to teach. Like it's like Robert Rodriguez's film school. Then the other ones I recommend, I think I've said this before, get the first Avengers and Age of Ultron on Blu-ray and listen to Joss Whedon's commentary on both. One of them, you will find a very excited man who has lots of passion. The second one, especially if you play it right after, oh, that is a beaten down man. He's just like, yeah, and then Black Widow. Then the other one that I tell people, it's like, yeah, you might not want to have this Blu-ray. I get it. But the commentary is amazing, is Joel Schumacher's commentary on Batman and Robin. Because it's a 2-hour movie, for about an hour and 45 minutes, he just apologizes. He's just like, look, I let you down. I know it. I know. And then with 15 minutes left to go in the movie, he's like, I really don't have anything else to say. He's like, I'm just gonna let this play out, and he just leaves.
Wow.
And so he leaves like when they're like plugging Alfred back into the Mr. Freeze serum.
Oh.
He's just like, yeah, I got nothing. I'm sorry. He's like, if you loved Batman Forever and you came into this and were disappointed, I own that, and I'm sorry I let you down.
And then he just leaves?
Yeah, and it's like, by the end of that commentary, you feel so bad for how mean you've been to Joel Schumacher for all the years. You're like, poor guy was just trying to do something fun. He's just like, yeah, I liked the thing. I thought it'd be fun, but, oh, man, I let you guys down.
Wow. Classic. I don't know which one I prefer, because I think... I think I came up in the golden age of commentaries. Like, I got the Fight Club double disc DVD, and even though it's intense, Radiohead creep like signal to white guys didn't hit me the same way. I still felt that story of a guy going through a real strange time, trying to deal with these issues of masculinity, trying to deal with issues of seeing all of a sudden your world is bigger. And rock bottom, what is rock bottom? All the space monkeys, all that jazz really got to me. And I watched the commentaries, and there was like 16 of them. They had one with the set dressers, one with the dudes who did the photogrammetry, that camera technique and all this kind of jazz. They had one with Jim Uhls, the screenwriter, and Chuck Palahniuk, the author of the book. So they were bouncing ideas off each other as far as how to represent the information in prose form versus screenplay form. And then there was a David Fincher by himself, which was really introspective and super like, wow, you feel like Lex Luthor after you watch that thing. Like, you could just go out and make a movie like that, baby. And then there's one with him and Brad Pitt and Ed Norton and Helena Bonham Carter. And that becomes sort of a party. You know what I mean? So the reason why I have trouble with this question is I like all of those.
Right.
I love the fact that I had the choice to look at the movie through each of those prisms. That was fantastic. So I wish more movies would do that approach.
I think it does depend on who, because sometimes the director commentary can be fascinating, and sometimes they're very just, depending on the director's like, so the way we approached this scene was that it's like, oh boy.
Well, I think it's so inside. They're
very...
like, that was Sherry. She was first, second AD, and she was and you're like, I don't care.
Or sometimes they're the most interesting thing in the world. Likewise with actors, sometimes it can be fun and they're bouncing off each other and you get a lot of laughs. And sometimes it's a lot of times actors don't know anything other than the scenes they were in about making the movie, so they're either silent. Those are my least favorite commentaries, are the ones where they're just obviously sitting there watching.
Right.
Well,
and then it'll be like 3 minutes of like, and the audio is really low because they keep the movie audio low, and it's just 3 minutes of silence, and then, yeah, I remember that day.
Or it'll be weird if it's like a big movie and they'll be like, yeah, we just locked this cut, so we're going to watch this now. And you're like, oh, you haven't even seen what the public is going to think of this yet. So it's...
Yeah, those have a distinctly different flavor than the ones where they record it years later with all the reflection.
Right.
That's another thing I wish they'd do on commentaries. Give me that one when you're on the high of just rapping it and you don't know if it's going to bomb yet or anything. And then give me that retrospective when it's either a super hit or this is the cult DVD for 5 nerds.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. Also, I've seen real quick, as you talk about anecdote, if you watch Conan the Barbarian, not Conan the Destroyer, the inferior sequel, not Conan the Barbarian. If you watch that, John Milius and Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's a time capsule of a certain sort of masculinity that I'm not dissing totally, but boy, it's cringy at parts, it's stupid as hell at parts, and it has some of those parts where they're just both these. One of them is a certified, like, at least manly type genius, and the other one is a power of will. You know what I mean? And they're sitting there like some dumbasses eating Cheetos watching this movie for a long time going, I remember the sword. And it's like, what do you got? What?
Arnold's commentary, there is one that's both a commentary and a public service. If you watch his commentary on Total Recall, it is both a actor's commentary and one of the descriptive audio tracks for the visually impaired, because it's literally Arnold just watching the movie. He's like, okay, now this is the scene where I walk in and talk to Sharon Stone, and then he like shoots her in the head and says, consider that a divorce. He says, consider that a divorce.
Like
I remember that line.
Like,
Like he's literally just describing. He's like, all right, now is the scene where I go down and we meet Quado, and he's the man that lives in the stomach, and like, I know, Arnold, that's not the point of the commentary. It's not for you to describe what we're seeing. It's for you to add.
play by play.
It's not play by play. It's like, no. Oh, this is the big action finale. I know it is, Arnold. I've seen the film. Like, I was hoping perhaps you would add some. No, it's literally just a description, and then he will repeat back what the film just said to you. It's hilarious.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I guess if you want a memorable commentary, the takeaway here is find one from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and very rarely, like Billy was saying, if you get some inside dirt, like I remember watching the Predator Criterion Collection, I think, version of it, and it's God, the director, I'm blanking on his name, John McTiernan. Mm-hmm. He's watching it and he's loving himself. He's like, no, look at this dolly up over the branch. I'm dollying up over this branch because that's showing the predator. And then they start doing the scene where the crack assault team has found some CIA people who are being abused or whatever, and they're just gonna go in and beat them up. And he goes, oh, this crap was shot by second unit. I hate this. Look at this. Look at this. It's all grainy. He's jumping out of it. Oh, God. And he's heckling the movie for 5 minutes because it's the stuff he didn't shoot. And as soon as it goes back to his stuff, look at this lush jungle foliage that we had to... This is all in Panama, by the way. It's just... It's like... It's funny how it vacillates.
You can also... there's Attack of the Clones. That's when you realize George Lucas doesn't even know what he's doing anymore, because there's a shot of Boba Fett. You know where Mace Windu cuts his head off? He's like, there's flames in his jetpack? I forgot we had it. When did we? He's like, off camera, like, when did we add that? Is that yesterday? Oh yeah, that's already in this movie. It's like, you don't even know what you're doing anymore. You have lost control, George Lucas.
I've also heard, I have not heard this one specifically, I've heard there's a Twilight, the first Twilight film, there's a commentary, and this will actually segue nicely into what we're doing. Next, there's a Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart commentary where a lot of people will say, like, oh, did they know? Like, you can tell that, like, yes, they're very aware of the film that they're making, and apparently they just sit there and enjoy it. Okay. I guess, or just kind of like, oh, we don't take this too seriously. We understand exactly what we're doing. So you can check that out. But before, check this out. I didn't even plan that, Billy.
Wow. I just find that hard to believe.
Segues. I didn't. Magical segues just kind of happen on this show
sometimes. We need a Dan
segue
graphic.
Fandom update, which is that we got acquired by Fandom. So a lot of people have been asking, like, what have you been up to? Where's Roth been? She hasn't been here. She hasn't been on charting. It's because she has a lot of new exciting stuff to work on, and this is one of them. She and Joe teamed up to tell you about a new project that's coming up that you will see very soon. We don't know exactly when, but I can tell you very soon. But instead of me trying to stumble my way through describing it, let's cut to the same desk. And Roth and Joe can tell you about a new show coming up soon called Fandom Uncovering. Check it out.
Hi guys, I'm on a plane right now, but I've astrally projected here to hang out with my friend Joe Starr and talk to you because we've been trying a bunch of new formats around here at ScreenJunkies. We're trying some new things.
Yeah, our new sort of relationship with Fandom has sort of given us some opportunity to push a little bit, try some bigger stuff, try some different stuff, which has been really cool for us.
Yeah, it's been cool. A lot of fun things are going to be coming at you. The first up is we actually made a documentary. What? Let me tell you a little bit about that. So essentially, we were talking about this festival that takes place in Forks, Washington around Twilight. I know, but hang in, stay with us. We know how everybody feels about Twilight, but we were so fascinated by the idea that this festival is still taking place 10 years later and what was going on there that we decided to go to Forks. Myself, Max, and one of our writers went to Forks, Washington to shoot a documentary about this festival and the town of Forks, and we actually love it. We think you're really going to like it. We learned a lot of really cool stuff there. It's coming out soon. We will have more information about it coming up, but we basically just wanted to let you know that we're going to be trying some new things. This will be unveiled shortly. We have a teaser coming out in the next couple of days, but even sooner after that, the documentary itself will be there. I don't know, Joe, you've seen it. Did you feel surprised by anything? Don't give anything away.
I won't give anything away. There's a lot of really cool stuff in it. I think the important thing that I took from watching it and really enjoyed about it is, it's Forks, Washington, and it's these Twilight diehards. It's a fandom that you might not necessarily love or care about, but the sort of like universal fact that it's fans of a thing that are just absolutely crazy about their thing and love their thing is really, really cool, and it's really, really fun. And give it a shot, give it a chance. You guys come on some really weird journeys with us every morning on SJU, and we want to continue being able to sort of push that envelope and grow with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching. As always, we love you guys. Stay tuned for our Twilight documentary. And again, I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from it, is that as much as you think you may or may not be able to relate to something, the more you dig beneath the surface, the more you find how much alike we all really are. So stay tuned for that and many more fun things to come in the coming months. And I love you. I'm going to go back and astrally project back onto the plane now. I hope it's still where I left it.
Ooh. There you go. Fandom Uncovered, coming very soon. I feel like we could have just pretended they were there the whole show and just not use that camera angle and then just cut away.
Every time they have something more to say about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey.
Yeah, and just had them record things like, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Cut away.
No, I hear you. Just come back. I got to watch a cut of this. It's always interesting to me. Like, I remember, was it a couple years ago, they came out with the documentary about the bronies, which on its face, I was like, but then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is like really fascinating. So I'm always interested in seeing like the idiosyncrasies of like fandoms that I'm not a part of, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. Yeah,
there definitely are, and that's what the show's all about. It's about finding those and uncovering them. Hence the name, Fandom Uncovered. So that will be you'll be able to watch that very soon. I don't have a date for you quite yet, but we'll have that soon. We'll let you know when that's going to be and where it's going to be and all the time and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. But that's it for us. That's it for today's SJU. However, that's not it for programming this week, because we have a movie fight coming up tomorrow that is going to be one for the record books. Cucumber coming back. Vanessa Gritton coming back. And the third fighter will be the man sitting to my right, Mr. Ed Greer. That's a tough draw, Ed. Cucumber and Vanessa in the same fight.
I mean, it's almost like you guys have it out for me, but it's okay. But it's okay, because, you know, the ScreenJunkies gods do not give you more than you can handle. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to... Cucumber is an amazing fighter. He's a very wily competitor with a really offbeat style, and Vanessa is just a sledgehammer of like wit and like just idiosyncratic phraseology. She's amazing. So I'm gonna have to really bring it. I think I'm up to the challenge, and I really want you guys to tune in for this one. I think it'll be a slobber knocker.
I think Cucumber. I've never fought Vanessa. I watched her. She's razor sharp, amazingly fast. Cucumber, I will say, he slaughtered me in the speed round. I'd watch out for that guy's closing arguments, because sometimes he'll be quiet during a round, he'll get in a little bit, then that closing argument, he just wails on you, and there's nothing you can do about it at that point.
One thing I've seen in the chat is a lot of people hate when like people start screaming over each other and stuff. I think all of us have a sense of decorum, and I think it'll be a nice, clean fight, and I think that's one thing that people in the chat can look forward to.
Yes, you're right. The movie fights gods never give you what you can handle. And there's one set of footprints. It was Percival carrying me. That should be a great fight. Tune in tomorrow on Screen Junkies for that, and tune in here on Screen Junkies News tomorrow morning, same time. Well, morning where we are, probably afternoon almost
night,
everywhere else, or
if you're
night
watching.
where you
If you're
are.
in Kiev.
Kiev. I'm gonna guess. Let's say 9 p.m.
It's usually nighttime now. We're working with people in Kiev, so it's always like,
Okay.
I feel like the Tooth Fairy visited me when I get an email from them every morning, because I'm like, oh, it's something from the Ukraine.
I mean, if I could plug something that a Screen Junkie was on, Logan Reese was on my podcast, Nerd Goat, this week, and he was talking about Tyler Durden, the ways that him being his favorite character at 14 has grown over time, how he's changed, how the character's changed. It's a really deep discussion. He's a really smart guy, and it's a really standout episode of Nerd Goat Podcast.
Awesome.
So yeah, he's great on it.
Check out the Nerd Go podcast. Check out Ed on Movie Fights tomorrow. Check out Billy here, just generally
just
and
here.
always, and myself as well. And thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow on Screen Junkies Universe.